Right, kids, I'm back. Here's my little bunny. I want one of you to think of a name for her. We're going to read the story of Jeremy Puddle, the tale. What a funny sight it is to see a brood of ducklings with a hen. Listen to the story of Jeremy Puddle Duck, who is annoyed because the farmer's wife would not let her hatch her own eggs. Really? Her own eggs? How can you just not let her? Her sister-in-law, Mrs. Rebecca Puddle Duck, was perfectly willing to leave the hatching to someone else. I have not the patience to sit on the nest for 28 days, and no more have you, Jemima. You would let them go cold. You know you would. I wish to hatch my own eggs. I will hatch them all by myself, quacked Jeremy Puddle Duck. She tried to hide her eggs, but they were always found and carried off. Jeremy Puddle Duck became quiet, desperate. She determined to make a nest right away from the farm. She set off on a fine spring afternoon along a cart road and leads over a hill. She was wearing a shawl and a pokey bonnet. So there's the duck. Cute little things. When she reached the top of the hill, she saw a wood in the distance. She thought it looked like a safe, quiet spot. Jeremy Puddle Duck was not much in the habit of flying. She ran down the hill, a few yards, flapping her shawl, and then she jumped off into the air. She flew beautifully when she had got a good start. She skimmed along the treetops until she saw an open place in the middle of the wood, and the trees of the brushwood had been cleared. Oh, look at her. Go a little bonnet hat. I mean, do we see ducks with bonnet hats? They'll probably bite us if we try and put a hat on one. So don't try it, kids. Jeremy alighted rather heavily and began to waddle about in search of a convenient dry nesting place. In other words, to birth her babies. She'd rather fancy a tree stump alongside amongst some tall foxgloves, but seemed upon the stump she settled to find the elegant dressed gentleman reading a newspaper. There's the elegant gentleman reading a newspaper. The fox. So sweet. He had black prickle ears and sandy-coloured whiskers. Quack, said Jeremy Puddle Duck, with her head in her bonnet on one side. Quack, said the gentleman, said Amanda. The gentleman raised his eyes above his newspaper and looked curiously to Jeremy. Madam, have you lost your way? He said. He had a long bushy tail, which he was sitting upon as a stump of a somewhat damp. Jeremy thought, mighty civil and handsome, she explained, and she had not lost her way, but that she was trying to find a convenient dry nesting place. Aww. No, it says straight away. I hadn't even read it. Is that so, indeed, said the gentleman, with sandy whiskers, looking curiously at Jemima. He folded up the newspaper and put it in his coat towel pocket. Jemima complained of the superfluous hens. Indeed, how interesting. I wish I could meet with that fowl. I would teach it to mind its own business, but as to a nest, there is no difficulty. I have a sackful of feathers in my woodshed. No, my dear, madam, you will be in nobody's way. You must sit there as long as you like, he said, bushy long-tailed gentleman. He led his way to a very retired, dismal-looking house amongst the foxgloves. It was built on faggots. Built on faggots. I don't like faggots. Built on faggots and turf, and there were two broken piles, one on top of another, by the way of the chimney. This is my summer residence. You would not find my winter house, so convenient, said the hospitable gentleman. There was a tumble-down shed and back of the house, made of old soap boxes, and gentleman opened the door and showed Jemima in. The shed was almost quite full of feathers. It was almost suffocating, but it was comfortable and very soft. Jemima Puddle Duck was rather surprised to find such a vast quantity of feathers, but it's very comfortable, and she made a nest without any trouble. So there's Jemima there, making a little nest. Bless her. Ready to make her little ducklets. When she came out, the sandy-whiskered gentleman was sitting on a log reading the newspaper. At least he had to spread out, but he was looking over the top of it. He was polite, and he seemed almost sorry for Jemima. Go home for the night, he promised, to take great care of the nest until she came back again the next day. He said he loved the eggs and ducklings. You should be proud to see a fine nestful in his own woodshed. Jemima Puddle Duck come every day, every afternoon. She laid 9 eggs in the nest. They were greatly white and very large. The foxy gentleman admired them immensely. He used to turn them over and count them when Jemima was not there. At last Jemima told him that she intended to begin to sit the next day, and I will bring a bag of corn with me, so I need to never leave my nest, and the eggs are hatched. They might catch a cold. Continuously. So kids, this is my first time, so please forgive me if I mess up. Madam, I beg you not to trouble yourself with a bag. I will provide oats, but before you commence your sitting, I intend to give you a treat. Let us have dinner party, all to ourselves. May I ask you to bring up some herbs from the farm garden to make a savoury omelette? Bloody hell. Sago and a thyme and mint and 2 onions. They can cook better than us. I will provide the lard and stuff lard for the omelette, said the hospital gentleman with the sandy whiskers. Jemima Puddle Duck was simpleton. Not even the mention of the sago of the onions made her suspicious. She went round the farm garden, nibbling off snippers of all different sorts of herbs and used for stuffing roast duck. Here's a picture. And she waddled into the kitchen and got 2 onions and out of the basket. The collie dog met her. Come out. What are you doing with those onions? Where do you go every afternoon by yourself, Jemima Puddle Duck? Jemima was rather in awe of the collie. She told him the whole story. The collie listened with his wise head on one side. He grinned when she described the polite gentleman with sandy whiskers. He asked several questions about the wood and about the exact position of the house and shed. Then he went out and trotted down the village. He went to look for 2 foxhound puppies who were out at a walk with the butcher. There's that. So this dog is there talking. Jemima Puddle Duck went up and cut off cart road, and last time of the sunny afternoon she was rather burdened with bunches of herbs and 2 onions in a bag. She flew over the wood and alighted the opposite of the house and the bushy-tailed gentleman. He was sitting on the log. He sniffed the air and kept glancing uneasily around the wood. When Jemima alighted, he quite jumped. Come into the house as soon as you have looked at your eggs. Give me the herbs for the omelette. Be sharp. He was abrupt. Jemima Puddle Duck had never heard him speak like that. She felt surprised and uncomfortable. While she was inside, she heard pattering feet around the back of the shed. Someone with a black nose sniffed in the bottom of the door and looked at it. Jemima became much alarmed. A moment afterwards, there was most awful noises, barking, baying, growls, howls, squealing and groans, and nothing more was ever seen. Nothing more was ever seen of that. A foxy whiskered gentleman. Presently, Keep opened the door of the shed and let Jemima Puddle Duck. Unfortunately, the puppies rushed in and grabbed up all the eggs before he could stop them. He had to bite on his ear. Both of the puppies were limping. Jemima Puddle Duck was escorted home in tears on the account of those eggs. She laid some more in June, and she was permitted to keep them to herself, but only 4 of them hatched. Jemima Puddle Duck said that's it. Was because of the nervous, but she had always been a bad sitter. There's a little ducklets. So yeah, that's the first time I've done that. It's probably not going to be to your thingy, but I'll read another one. I'm actually going to post it as well because it's just naturally how it's been. Love you kids, have a beautiful day, and I'll be back later.